Welcome, Veritas family. Thank you so much for joining us here at Give and Take. I'm Sherry Davis, and I am joined here today by Delaney Johnston. Hey, Delaney.
Good morning.
We're glad to have you. Delaney is our financial aid director, and she has been working for us. Well, I don't want to steal her thunder because I know she's got some things to share with us. So I will let you, Delaney, before you dive in, if you were watching live or in replay, be sure to tell us where you're watching from so we can see where everyone is. So with that said, oh, there's Denny, first one. Hey, Denny, thanks for popping in. He's watching from Antigua. We're glad to have him today. Go ahead, Delaney, tell us how you came to be a part of the Veritas family.
My story with Veritas actually began as a undergrad student. Before I was a staff member here, I was a student here, which has been really exciting because as a student, I was able to be just the recipient of the community and the love and just the joy that Veritas just exudes. And now as a staff member, I get to be a part of the background work behind the scenes that know all of the effort and intentionality that goes into that. So it's been fun to be on both sides of things and to be able to experience to experience that experience in two separate
Mhm.
ways. My journey with Veritas began in 2017. I was just really praying about what college to attend. I had taken a gap year at that point. I graduated high school a year early, so I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go to school or even what I wanted to do. But as time went on, I felt more and more called to ministry and knowing that I wanted to go to a ministry school, a Bible college, something where I could grow, not just intellectually, but also in my faith. And so I was really praying about that. And one day I had was just scrolling through Facebook and I saw an ad for what was Virginia Baptist College at the time. And I remember at first, I knew right away that that was where God was going to have me. But I remember being a little bit stubborn about it for a good while because I really want, traditional college experience, decorating a dorm, having, roommates and going away to college, just the traditional experience that everybody dreams of when they think of college. So the fact that Virginia Baptist College was online, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me, right?
Yeah.
But as time went on, I just began really working on my heart, and I knew without a doubt that VBC was where God wanted me. So I applied for, I believe my original major was elementary education. And that was what I went for the first 2 years of my college experience. And then junior year, I had taken two courses that were really impactful for me. One of them was Principles of Bible Study with Pastor Carrie Schmidt, and the other one was a youth ministry course with Pastor Josh Venable. And I remember those courses just really impacting me. Like they were my favorite, right? They dug into the theology, they dug into the Bible, more counseling oriented perspectives, and I was like, okay, I'm enjoying these classes even more than I'm enjoying my education courses. Like maybe, maybe education isn't exactly for me. Maybe that's not the right path.
Yeah, let
So
me, if I can park here for a minute, because speak to a student who might be in your position, like not necessarily unhappy, but if there is something to be said for the Lord pulling him in a different direction, talk to the student who's in that position.
yeah. I think the best thing you could do is to get pulled in the direction that God is pulling you. So if you had a plan, like I'm going to be in elementary education or whatever it might be, that was my specific context. And then you actually start taking those education courses and you're realizing, I just don't know if this is really for me, be submissive and humble to where God is directing directing you as you study, because that's not by mistake. And
Yeah.
he is specifically cultivating your gifts, your experiences, just sovereignly orchestrating all of those things to guide you and direct you to what he has called for you. So I think for me, one of my biggest concerns was, okay, I'm halfway into my college program now. Like, am I going to graduate? I still get like these credits that I've, these blood, sweat, and tears that I poured into all these classes. Like, where
Yeah.
is this going to go? And thankfully, like God and his faithfulness and his kindness, I was able to use most of those as elective credits and I was able to graduate on time. So ask the questions, reach out to your advisor, get in contact with Tyler, our registrar, like really dig in to see what this would look like practically for you. Because if God is giving you a passion and a desire to go a different route than maybe what you had envisioned, like 100% go that route because you're not going to regret it. And that passion and that excitement is really going to make a big difference in your studies.
That's right. And you'll be thankful that you had at that moment decided to do that. We've got Leo watching from Romania, Alyssa watching here
Oh,
in Virginia, and Christy watching from Texas. Thanks you guys. Thank you guys for popping in. Yeah, because I think that the idea sometimes, like you mentioned, being humble, the idea of like, oh, what a waste. But I think the Lord will use those experiences, especially the classes that you're getting here at Veritas. None of those are going to go to waste, right? Everything that you're learning is going to be you can use for some reason. And I feel like it's a little bit like our situation might be a little bit like finding your spiritual gifts in that especially when you're maybe a new believer, you're not exactly sure what your spiritual gift is, but you just got to get out there and try it, right? You don't know until you get into some ministry and then you think, oh man, I really like this. I really light up. This is really fulfilling and rewarding, or this is not my thing. And so the idea of switching majors is very common, and I don't think that I would use it. I would caution to stick it out just for the sake of sticking it out. But to your point is to be able to follow God's calling and follow whatever maybe the passion that the Lord is leading you to has placed on your heart. I appreciate your talking about that.
yeah, I think something else I would say too is don't be embarrassed by the stigma, right? Like the worries of like, oh man, I had this perfectly coordinated plan. What is this
Yeah.
going to do to the perfectly coordinated plan? Just being obedient to where, you feel God leading you and being like, okay, this might not make a lot of logical sense, but I know without a doubt that this is the right thing to do. This is where God is calling me in this.
I think you're speaking to those of us who struggle with control. That last tag is those of
Correct.
us who are like, is this
From
good? What is
personal
this gonna
experience.
That's right. Our perfectly laid out plan. That's right. So if you're someone that struggles with control, hey, just give it up. You'll be much more happy on the other side. That's fun. Easier said than done, though, frankly. So,
Yeah, definitely.
okay. So you are at this point in your story, you've switched your major, and then go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so then I ended up graduating with a Bachelor of Ministry with a youth ministry specialization in May of 2021, which was just so, it was wonderful. Graduation was just such a great experience, just being able to personally meet my professors and staff members and fellow students in person was just a really unique and exciting experience. So that
So
was
I'm
really
going to stop you right there too, because this is a perfect time for a plug. Those of you who are watching, either now, currently, or you're watching this at some point in the future, make plans to be a part of our graduation ceremony. It is the one event that we do on campus, and we do it up big. We love, love, love when people come to our graduation ceremony as a graduate, as someone who's celebrating a graduate, as just part of the Veritas community. Come to graduation, introduce yourselves, connect with us. That is where we love. It's the pinnacle of our year, and we're excited about that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's a great experience. 10 out of 10 would recommend for sure.
There you go.
So that's spring. So spring of 2021, I had just moved and I was really praying about a job opportunity, but chose to just kind of surrender that to the Lord and just keep praying about it, trusting that He would bring just the right job along my path at just the right time. And I think it was probably late January of 2021 that I got a call from Ann Rule asking if
Who,
I
by
would.
the way, is watching. She just popped on. She said she's
Oh, hey,
watching
Em.
from Kentucky.
Nice. Asking if I would be interested in a financial aid specialist position that had just opened up. And I remember just like being excited because it's like, oh, wait, this is a job and it's a job at Veritas. How exciting. What an answer to prayer. But then also like, oh, it's financial. Like, I have no experience in finance. I don't know if they want me doing that. Uh, so definitely a lot of nervousness there, but I had a couple interviews and went through training with Sherry, which was an incredible experience, and eventually came on staff full time after I graduated in May of 2021. So February is my official anniversary of coming on staff, but I was full time once I graduated. So five
We
years
are
almost.
ever so glad that and put you in contact with us because, boy, we have just really, really enjoyed, I've enjoyed personally connecting with you as a supervisor or boss, but just as a friend and just as a friend to Veritas. I mean, such a real asset to the team. And we've just, I mean, 5 years. I can't believe it. I can't believe it will be almost 5 years.
Oh,
So
I
we are
know.
excited to have you, and lots of things have happened. You know, you came in at the tail, just as COVID was, people are going back to schools and back to things. You know, COVID had closed things down for a while. And so you got some of the benefit of some COVID regulations as you were coming into
Mhm.
financial aid, and some of that's kind of petering out. But
Yes.
we're thrilled to have you as part of our team. And I am certainly glad to have you as a friend. So I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry. So keep
Oh,
on.
no. You're fine. I mean, that's pretty much the end of my origin story. Like you said, we'll be celebrating 5 years as a staff member here in February, which is super exciting. And again, just honestly, Veritas has been one of the biggest blessings that God has given me. Just so many amazing people I've been able to meet, and just the friendship that we've been able to foster through the job. It's just, I would always say, I think I might have even said this in my speech at graduation, but you make Pell Grants fun, you make finances fun. And I just have always really appreciated that.
Well, it's super high praise because
Just a
it's
job that is,
virtually impossible to do that. So, oh, that's good. Well, I'm so glad that you're here today. So now we ask our guests a couple of questions. So you've come prepared to answer some of these. What book or books do you recommend to our Veritas community?
yeah. Just full transparency, I don't have any leadership specific books. But I do have some books to recommend that I think help cultivate the heart of a good leader. I really believe that behind every good leader, is a healthy understanding of who God is, and then
Yeah,
also a healthy understanding of who we are in light of who God is.
yeah,
Because when we can truly rest in our identity in Christ, when we can rest in who He says we are, that just flows out, right? We are comfortable and confident in our God-given identity. We don't need to lead by force or by manipulation, by guilt, by fear. We don't need to gain power, right? We're interested in serving. Like, looking to other people to give us a sense of identity, to give us a sense of, whatever it might be. Like, we are looking to Christ and He is filling us up and we're just pouring that out. So I think, when we can learn to be secure in who God says we are, and when we have a healthy understanding of who He is,
Mm.
a good leader, a good Christ-centered leader is going to reflect the heart of Christ to the people they're
Yeah,
called to serve. And so in order to do that well, in order to do that biblically, we have to know who Christ is. We have
mm,
to understand what His character is like, and who He defines Himself as. And so
yeah,
I think some of the greatest leadership books we can read is just good theology, right? Good theological books that challenge us, that sanctify us, that grow us, that mature us, that help us become better, and help us model the heart of Christ more succinctly so that we can help serve other people. So the two books that came to my mind, one of them is a book called Ordinary, and I think it's by someone named Michael Horton. Now, I haven't read this book in about 5 years or so. It was right around the time that I was actually graduating from Veritas, I think. I can't remember if I agree with all the theological components of the author.
sure.
But what I love about this book is I think sometimes, especially as Christians, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be radical, to be special, to be, to accomplish big things, things that nobody has ever accomplished before. And that is great, right? Like, if God has that calling for you and He is calling you to do something huge, then like praise Him for that. That is incredible.
Yeah,
That is awesome. We support you in that. But more often than not, some of the greatest things that we can do, whether it's in leadership or whether it's in just basic Christian service, it's just the ordinary tasks, doing ordinary things well and wisely. And what I really loved about this book, Ordinary, is it kind of reoriented my perspective a little bit in that regard. It helped take the pressure off that, honestly, some of the best things that I can do to serve the Lord is just showing up to my job and a job well.
Mhm.
Getting out of bed in the morning and,
Mhm.
stewarding the possessions that God has given me well, caring for the people in my life. Like those are some of the greatest things that we can accomplish for God's kingdom, but we so often overlook them because they're
Yeah.
ordinary, right? They're not radical, they're not special, they're not in the limelight, they're not unique, if you will. But some of those things are really just so beautifully um, designed to give glory to God and to reflect His heart and does. So I think that book is a good one.
Yeah, and we
Just to
also
really,
just to stop real quick and hang out there because the idea with ordinary things, they're so ubiquitous, right? They're all the time, they're everywhere. And in those moments, if we can use those as opportunities for worship, then we have all the opportunities to worship in the
yeah.
mundane, in the little things. Because if we wait for the big things to do worship and be grateful and gratitude and praise, then
Mhm.
those are few and far between, right? But
Sure.
it's in these daily tasks that we are called to be faithful and that we are diligent in, and we can praise and worship in those moments. I thought that's super great. I appreciate you bringing that. And Anne looks like she posted the link there for those of you who might want to check that book out.
Yeah, yeah. I remember there was a quote that I had read a long time ago. I think it was by C.S. Lewis. I'm going to paraphrase it because if I tried to quote it word for word, I would absolutely butcher it. Um, it was kind of referencing, when we think about our lives, right? When we think about things that impact us, when we think about ways that we want to impact others, I've often heard it said that we can kind of break it down into three segments. So the intellectual sense, our minds, what we think, how we think, the emotional sense, so our hearts, what we have, what we're passionate about, what we're fueled by, what we care about. And then also our volition, like what it is that we actually do in light of those things. And this quote by C.S. Lewis was just essentially saying something along the lines of, sometimes as Christians, we're going to be in situations where it's taking a while for our heart to catch up to our mind, or maybe it's taken a long time for our mind and our heart to catch up to our will, right? And there are going to be times in our lives where we don't have the energy, we don't have the passion, we don't have the excitement, we don't have the desire necessarily, but we're still doing what we know is right. We're still doing what we know God has called us to out of volition. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's easy to look at those moments and think, man, I'm not really doing anything for God's kingdom because my passion isn't there. Or, man, I'm just reading the word of God, but I'm kind of doing it in a rote way. Or, I'm praying that prayer, but there were no tears, or I don't even know what to say when I pray, right? And C.S. Lewis was essentially saying sometimes those are the most powerful moments in a Christian's life. Those are the most powerful prayers when you don't feel like praying, when you are weary, when you're tired, when you don't even know what to pray, but you still humbly bow before the Lord and just come before him and bring your request, even if it's something as simple as Lord help. Those are some of the most powerful prayers because they are prayers of volition. They are
Yeah.
prayers of your will. They are prayers when you are saying, I am going to do this. I am
Mm.
going to serve the Lord. I am going to honor him. I'm going to obey him, even when I don't feel like it, even when my brain doesn't maybe understand,
Yeah.
when I have questions, right? So I think kind of flowing into that conversation with ordinary, just being faithful to do the ordinary tasks, even when we might not feel super passionate about it, or even when we might not feel super excited, or even when we're tired and
Yeah.
weary. You know.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. And it reminds me of the Michael Riker popped on. He's watching from
I
West
do.
Alexandria, Ohio. He says, "Congratulations on your exa in your engagement, Delaney." It reminds me of this, the topic of the love languages. We talked about that last week with Adam Longo. And when you know that the other person does not, is exhibiting behavior from a love language that is not their own, that it speaks highly because it means they're overcoming or they're being intentional. And so this idea of a volitional prayer is like God knows. He knows our heart. He knows we're weary. He knows that we're human. He knows that we have our struggles. But the fact that we're faithfully sticking it out, even and we may not even see the whole story, the whole point, but
Mhm.
still trusting that he is Lord, still trusting that all things work together for good. I think
Yeah.
there's some value in that, and that it's the most powerful or can be very impactful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Mhm. And then the other book, I think I've mentioned this before. This is one that I try to reread as often as I can, or I'm not a big Audible person, I'll be honest. I know that's going to hurt a lot of people because I know that there are so many people who love audiobooks, and I am 100% for it. I struggle to retain information that way. I think I need to really focus like specifically on one thing in order to really like intake the information, you know? But
Got it.
sometimes I'll listen to this on the audiobook, and that's just Gentle and Lowly by Jane Ortlund. Again, because when we take a look at those two primary components in, you know, understanding who we are in light of who God is and allowing our leadership to flow from our Christ-based identity, and then also understanding who God is, this book is really great in helping us better understand who God is. You know, it's taking those two words, those two adjectives that Jesus himself used to describe who he is, and really expounding upon those in just such a beautifully tender way. You know,
Mm,
I have no problem, you know, accepting the sovereignty or the justice or the power of God, right? But when we start, you know, talking about his gentleness, his
mm,
love, his unconditional love for me, his graciousness, right? Those are things that it's hard to grasp sometimes. That's a more challenging to fully understand and rest in that aspect of his character. And Gentle and Lowly, it's an older book by now, but it's just so beautiful in just reminding us of how tender-hearted the Lord is to us, that he knows our frame, he knows we're but dust. He
mm.
still cares, he still loves us. He sees who we are, and he, you know, while we were yet sinners, you know, dying for us, saving us, rescuing us, drawing us to himself. So really, really beautiful book, and I'd recommend it
I
for
have
sure.
had that recommended to me by several. I haven't had a chance to read it. I think Lisa Joyner sent me one, and I haven't had a chance to dive in. And I know you've talked about it a number of times, but I just love that passage when he, and God's talking about he doesn't bring his full wrath or judgment upon us because he realizes we're just human. And I think that is so profound because it is something, especially as a parent, we talk about as a team and some of our other meetings how parenting is very sanctifying because you think to your kids, I cannot tell you this anymore. How many more times am I going to have to tell you this? And then I think, how many times has God told me this very same thing? How many times am I going to have to tell you for you to get it? And I just love the idea that that he is so forbearing and so gracious to us. And so I'll pull that book out because I really need to go and hunt it down. Joshua Leaguer watching from Columbus, Georgia. Thanks for popping in, Josh. Well, thanks for those two book suggestions. And did link that second book in there as well. So if you guys are looking for that, be sure to pop in there and grab that. What is your favorite leadership quote?
Yes. Okay. So I have two. I struggle to figure out just one. But the first one I had come across a couple years ago, and I don't even know, I can't remember exactly who quoted it. But it says, "If I lead, I pay the price. If I don't, others will." And
Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
that's a helpful quote, not just for leaders, but for anybody who might not do themselves, but God has put them in a position where they have to lead, where they have to take a stand, or whatever it might be. I think that's just it's a helpful reminder of how sacrificial and selfless true biblical leadership should be, right? Servant leadership. You know, sacrificing yourself for the good of another. When we think of Christ, I mean, he's the epitome
Mm,
of good leadership,
right.
and he made the ultimate sacrifice.
Mhm.
And so knowing that sometimes leadership isn't just it's not just all the fun, exciting things. It's not all the privileges. It's not all
Right.
of the benefits, but it's a
Right.
lot of sacrifice and a lot of sacrifice that happens behind closed doors that not many people even know about. You know, that leaders are navigating that, you know, nobody might understand completely. And being able to rest in the fact that, you know, I'm doing the right thing because I am sacrificing myself for the good of another, for the good that God has, for the good of those that God has called me.
Well, it's following the call and then nurturing and shepherding, which kind of goes back to our last week with Adam Longo, nurturing and shepherding the people that you are responsible to influence. And that can feel very daunting at times. And the sacrifice can be really big or real in your life, but it is a calling, it is a passion, and anything that we undertake, and we know that the Lord is with us, that ultimately carries us through and keeps us in the on the faithful path, right? Because you already talked about those times when you just feel like, what's all this for? I don't really feel it anymore, and sometimes our feelings betray us, and are not to be trusted, and it's those times that you just push forward with faithfulness. So yeah, it's really a great one.
Yeah. And the other one kind of flows out of that a little bit, but it's by Elizabeth Elliot, and it was in one of her books. It could have been a devotional, or I think she might even have a book on leadership. But she essentially says loneliness is a required course for leadership. And I think that that's an important component for us to take into consideration when we're talking about leadership, because, she essentially went on to say, we have to be prepared. We have to recognize that sometimes we're truly going to stand for what is right or what we know God is calling us to do, and being prepared, being equipped to do that, to know sometimes being a leader is going to be lonely. No matter being a Christian is going to be a little, times, and just knowing that, resting in God's call for your life, but then also knowing that He is so faithful to bring just the right people, just the right influences, just the right encouragement at just the right time, as we go through those valleys. And so I loved both of those quotes. I think that they kind of worked in tandem a little bit, so I wanted to share both.
Yeah, they sure did. And the second one, the loneliness, obviously on a full scale, when you're standing for Christ, obviously the events of this past week just go to show us. But um, this idea sometimes of loneliness, in that in your leadership journey, you will be pouring into people who will not be pouring into you.
Mhm.
You'll be pouring into people and nurturing and shepherding the group that you have influence over, who sometimes might not even be thinking about you. They're not going to be reciprocating, and that can feel lonely as well. But again, it is a calling and a passion. And I'm so glad you brought those up. Those are really, really great quotes. Um, I know this about you as well. Like, when the group that you have influence over, you are going to nurture and guide and just be a part of their life, and however way that you can. And sometimes I know that as a sacrifice, that can feel like um, kind of on your own a little bit. But knowing that that passion there is because God has placed it there is helps us to move forward. Okay. Is there a meaningful leadership moment that comes to mind? I think we'll probably finish up with this one.
Yeah, so I can't think of any specific moment in time, but just a general principle or just a general example. And I actually I thought of you honestly as my leader. Um, just the grace with which you lead was very just very comforting, to know. Like, I remember you would always tell me at the very beginning, like, there's no mistake that cannot be fixed. And hearing that is just, it's so, just knowing that there's room to fail, there is room to be human, there is room to
Yeah.
make mistakes, there is room to grow.
Mhm.
I think that that is a mark of a good leader, because it's, but for the grace of God, there go I, right?
Right.
Um, like, yeah, you might not do everything perfectly, but I don't do everything perfectly either, and so just
Right.
that spirit of humility. So when I was answering that question or thinking through that question, that was one of the first things that came to my mind, was just your example of just always being there, being available, educational. It's not going to be a situation of like, that's not the way to do it, you messed up, moving forward. It's like, here's how we do it, here's why we do it this way. And that helps kind of, as you're leading, it helps the person you're leading get on board with you, right? So it's not just a list of all these things. It's here's why we're doing it. Here's what it is that we're even doing. Like in financial aid, I
Mhm.
remember just all of the lingo. It's like, okay, well, what
Yeah.
are we actually doing? Like, what even is this? What does this mean? And you were just so
I
good at
think just coming
getting
on
me
to the
on
job is
that.
like, what are we even doing?
Right, reading through the job description, like I don't even know what half of these words are. It's all lingo and
Yeah.
abbreviations. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, I really appreciated the humility.
Well, I
I think that's a
appreciate
good.
that. That is super kind of you to say. And I just love to have kindred spirits. And I knew that I had that in you when it was like, I always tell people that, having been here at Veritas now 23, almost 24 years, I think, we've had a lot of people come through the Veritas family during that time. And I always say that you can, people who are humble and people who are eager to learn, meaning if you're willing to learn and you're willing to say you goofed, the rest of
Mhm.
it will come, and
Mhm.
that I knew right away that was your MO. It was, we are all gracious. Boy, I'm so grateful for those who have been gracious with me on my mistakes. And they happen more frequently than I care to admit, but I am thankful that those have been gracious with me and that our team as a whole is able to operate in that way. And so it's part of the just the core values in our group, that we love to continue with our students because we get the unique opportunity to partner with these students, come alongside them to fulfill their the call that God has given them. And it is our privilege, even in financial aid, as difficult of a department as it is, highly regulated, so many nuances and all these things. With that comes this great opportunity to fund, you know, the
Mhm.
God's call on someone's life. And I know that you have taken that to heart and use that as your kind of mantra as you're moving forward with students.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
So Delaney, talk to a student who might we're going to finish up here in just a few minutes, but talk to a student who might be on the fence about Veritas. What's
Yeah.
your encouragement there?
Well, hop off the fence. It's
Good.
pretty much what I would say. I remember there was a time when I was on the fence, right? I think it just depends on what their concerns are, right? So if it's like, man, I really wanted to go away to college, or I don't know how I would do in an online environment, I would just really recommend giving it a try. Start a semester off with just some general ed courses. They're going to transfer over. And I have a feeling that if you're anything like me, you're going to take that first semester and you're going to realize, okay, like I think I'm ready for a second,
Yeah.
and then you're completing your degree. I think the experience that you're going to get at Veritas, the level of community, the intentionality, you're not a number. You are a person. You are a person with a calling, and we take that seriously as staff members and faculty members at VBC. Like we take every person that God, draws our way. We take them and we view them as people, human beings, with unique situations, unique contexts, unique challenges, and giftings that we're called to cultivate and help equip people for ministry through those things. So I would definitely say, ask questions. Take a look at the FAQ page, get in touch with somebody. Like we're happy to answer your questions. We'd happy to walk through your concerns, but I would definitely say just get off the fence and give us a try because I think you won't regret it.
Yeah, I think we just need a campaign of get off the fence, right? A
Right.
shirt, some kind of
Get
picket.
off the
Get off
fence.
the fence, just do it, and maybe you're someone that needs to level up. Maybe you have an undergraduate degree and you need a graduate degree, or maybe you're a graduate student and you want to need to jump into our doctoral program. Our team is ready and willing to take your call, message us, however you can get in contact with us. You will be we will take great care of you. So be sure to message us. Let us know how we can help. We also have TMI, which is a free resource. Maybe there's a Bible study that you're interested in getting a part of, or maybe your church could use TMI as some Sunday school curriculum. Pop into TMI and see if there's some resources there that might be able to help you and your community. Delaney, thank you so much for being a part today. We're so thrilled that you
Sure.
took the
For
time to
having
be
me.
a part. Yeah, we're glad to have you. So we will let everyone go. We will meet back here Monday at noon, same time. We'll save you a seat.